Hi there, hope you're well today. It's good to be back. Beginning of a new year. I trust that you are looking at the new year ahead of you and expecting some good things and some breakthrough and some turnaround. I've already had reports of miracles that happened last year, but we bring them into the new year because God is still busy doing miracles, and I'm so excited about the things that we're going to see Him do. But there's something that I want to read a scripture to you today. It is Psalm 147, verse 15. He sends out his command to the earth. This is speaking about God. He sends out his command to the earth. His word runs very swiftly. And that word swiftly means no delay. It means accelerated, means fast, obviously. And many times we hear something, we receive a promise, but we don't see the swiftness in the natural. But you need to believe that it's happening in the spiritual realm. When God said it, He's already begun a process of something, and that when His word comes, when He sends out His command to the earth, when His word comes, the word comes with the power to do what it was sent to do. His word is not without power to accomplish what it was sent to do. His word will prosper. His word will be heard, and it will begin to advance and bring people into breakthrough and increase and enlarging and all of those things that the word is meant to do. But there's something that you and I need to be aware of in this time. And recently I did an online session, and in that session I spoke about Daniel. How Daniel and his friends were taken captive. They were in a pagan society. They weren't in a place having a holiday in a 5-star hotel with everything having access to everything they needed. They were being trained to serve a heathen king. And they obviously had all the qualities that this society needed. They saw that they would be able to take them and transform them, to take them out of their familiar surroundings, their background, their upbringing, everything that they knew. And as young men, they were taken and they wanted to take all of that out of them, their cultural familiar things out of them, and bring them into another society, culture, way of doing things that was not godly. But you know, God used Daniel in the middle of that heathen society. What I want to say to you today is your purpose will be found where God has placed you. And you may be looking at your life and thinking, but I go to the same office every day, complaining about your boss, complaining about this and that. And when we do that, we miss the opportunity that God has given us to represent Him in that place. And so in Daniel chapter 1, I'll just give this to you very quickly because you may have heard the online session. The title was The Power of the Prophetic in Today's World. And this is what's needed for in today's society, culture, atmosphere, spiritual atmosphere. You and I represent the kingdom, and we carry a different atmosphere. And if we can recognize, if we can discern that God has placed us somewhere for a purpose, that's where we find the power. So in Daniel chapter 1, it says, I think it's verse 8, it says, when they were offered all the king's delicacies and the wine and all the nice things that we probably would jump at today, it said Daniel purposed in his heart that he wouldn't be defiled by those things. And to me that speaks of an intentional decision to separate yourself from the world's way of things. Now, it's not looking at how the world operates at your unsaved friends and family members and saying, I'm better than them, I'm going to have nothing to do with them. It's a decision that you make, that you're going to separate yourself from the ways of the world, from the thinking, the expectation, the fear, the hopelessness, and you're going to separate yourself to the ways of God. Now that's what Daniel did. And when he did that, he wasn't defiled by the ways of that culture, that society. And there were different reasons behind why he didn't have the wine and why he didn't drink the king's delicacies. But when he did that, then he was open and separated to the ways of God and to receive the instructions that he needed. And then further on in the book of Daniel, still in chapter 1, I think, it says that after these days of the Daniel fast, that Daniel and his friends were found to have understanding and wisdom, and they had understanding of dreams and visions, and they were skilled. And they were better than the other young men who had been brought in, and they had been partaking of the culture and the society. So today, you need to know that wherever God has placed you, if you don't get all religious and say, I'm not going to speak to those people in the office because they don't serve God, or they swear, or they do this and that. You go in there, you represent the king and the kingdom, and you operate the ways of the kingdom. That's how you separate yourself to the ways of God. You don't get all holy and I'm better than you. You love, you have grace and kindness and compassion and mercy, but you separate yourself from the ways of the world. And so when we do that, then we're going to see that when God sends his command to the earth, his word runs very, very swiftly. And then we're going to find ourselves hearing, receiving understanding, being able to discern things that we wouldn't before, because we've separated ourselves to the ways of God. And then there's a scripture in 1 Corinthians 14, verse 24. And whenever I teach on, I've just got to find the scripture here. Whenever I teach on prophetic things, and we start out with the basics, the purpose of prophecy. And to me, you've heard me say this many times about what is the purpose of prophecy. There are many reasons to give us a strategy for prayer. It's a weapon of war, and all those amazing things, the power of receiving a prophetic word. But the main reason that God speaks is to reveal his heart. And so if you read in 1 Corinthians 14, 24 and 25, it says, and it's talking about the church coming together in one place. And it says here, if all prophesy and an unbeliever or an uninformed person comes in, he is convinced by all, he is convicted by all, and thus the secrets of his heart are revealed, and so falling down on his face, he will worship God and report that God is truly among you. I want to say that in my Bible I've underlined he is convicted by all. So when you and I understand that we've been placed somewhere for a purpose, we've been positioned somewhere for a purpose, we might not feel as if we're being very spiritual, but this scripture is speaking about people prophesying in church, and you take your unsaved friends to church that day, and someone gets up and prophesies something that is revealing the heart of God. The people who are not serving God, or the people who have grown lukewarm in their walk with God, they're going to hear the heart of God, and that's what carries the power to bring conviction. And so in today's world, what we need is to be so secure knowing that where we are is where God has placed us, even if it's just for a season. It might not be your forever job or your forever ministry, or it could change. But in this season, if you just realize the power that there is in in knowing that you've been placed there for a purpose, that the position that you have today in the church is a powerful one, because you've been set up to you carry the resurrection power of Jesus. And so you go into the place that you've been positioned in, knowing that you carry the resurrection power of Jesus, that you have a word in your mouth that's going to be a solution to somebody who's needing answers, that you have a word of hope in your mouth, and that you prophesy to others just by living your life separated unto the ways of God. That's the biggest prophetic word. Your life is a prophecy to somebody else about what God can do, about his goodness, about his grace, his kindness, and his mercy. So be encouraged today that you're placed where you are for a purpose. Don't be complaining and moaning. Daniel and his friends had plenty of opportunity to complain about where they were and what they had to do and why they had to be taken from their families and their culture, and they deserve better. But Daniel purposed in his heart not to be defiled by the king's delicacies. So today, if you and I will purpose in our hearts not to complain, not to be downcast, but to keep our eyes on God, and let our lives prophesy of His goodness, His glory, and His power every single day. Be encouraged with that today.